And our next stop is Harpers Ferry National Historical Park. Here in the corner, the confluence of West Virginia, along with Maryland and Virginia. A storied history. Really, really hot day today, so we'll see how we go. Parking areas by the Visitor Center provide access to a shuttle bus toward the lower town, as well as trails that visitors can take to hike there themselves. A second parking area is available by the river, but does not feature shuttle service. We chose to hike to the lower town by connecting to a small portion of the Appalachian Trail. This section features a steep incline up the ridge before leveling off near Jefferson Rock, and then proceeding down to the lower town. Well, we've made it up to a section of the Appalachian Trail, and that section from the base where that road is up to where we are on this ledge kind of kicked our butt a little bit, but hey, that's part of the challenge. So we'll keep on going and see what we can see down by the river. Here at Harpers Ferry, this is Jefferson Rock. Thomas Jefferson stood here, and I don't remember his exact quote, but this is where he said this is the most beautiful place he laid his eyes on. And you know, from here, you can see why. Confluence of the Shenandoah and Potomac rivers is just going to be down that direction. But this is a gorgeous place with the mountains and the rivers. Thomas Jefferson, not too shabby an idea. Our hike back meandered through and around Virginia's island, following along the Shenandoah River and strolling near some of the old industrial ruins for a peaceful walk back. Harpers Ferry may be best known for John Brown's raid in the historic lower town in the corner of West Virginia, but the park itself includes several miles of trails, battle sites, and structures on all three sides of the rivers for visitors to explore. The site explores the history of prominent American events and figures, from colonial times through George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Lewis and Clark, John Brown, Stonewall Jackson, the Civil War, the early Industrial Revolution, and beyond. Steeped in both history and natural beauty, Harpers Ferry offers visitors plenty of opportunities for exploration and discovery. Here at Harpers Ferry, we have the Shenandoah River flowing right into the Potomac River. As we sit, I stand here in West Virginia. We have Maryland over here and Virginia over here, and on a hot day, this breeze coming through both those rivers feels really, really, really nice. The remains of Harpers Ferry's, one of Harpers Ferry's earliest buildings, built in 1852, St. John's Episcopal Church. The park contains an assortment of ruins, old structures, and restored buildings, some housing living history exhibits and others serving as museums and film houses about particular segments of Harpers Ferry history. Years after Thomas Jefferson's first visit to Harpers Ferry, he famously commissioned Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to survey the new Louisiana Purchase and to find the best ways to connect the Missouri River to the Pacific Ocean. Prior to the expedition, Lewis, in constant communication with Jefferson, arrived in Harpers Ferry on March 16, 1803, in order to gather supplies and to oversee the construction of a specialized foldable iron boat frame that could be portable and reusable throughout the expedition. The Lewis and Clark expedition served numerous scientific, political, economic, and diplomatic purposes, but the museums here highlight the importance of this site prior to the official launch later that summer. Harpers Ferry is perhaps most famous now for John Brown's attempted raid. An ardent abolitionist, he sought to recruit an army of followers to both strike terror into the hearts of slave owners and to free and arm enslaved peoples, first in Harpers Ferry and then eventually deeper into the South. While his actions did not draw as much immediate support from the slaves during the fighting itself, and his army was rebuffed by local militia and a small force under the command of Robert E. Lee sent from Washington, D.C., the aftermath was a striking recognition of the growing tensions that would inevitably lead to the Civil War. The John Brown Museum here at Harpers Ferry details the timeline of Brown's 1859 raid, but also the conversations between Brown and other prominent figures like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, and the impact of Brown's actions and death on the abolitionist cause and the history of civil rights protests.
Right here at Harpers Ferry, where the Potomac and the Shenandoah rivers meet, is the old U.S. Armory. It's now been reduced to rubble, but it was here where, in an effort to free slaves with an armed slave rebellion, John Brown tried to rebel against the U.S. government by stealing the arms from the armory. John Brown's fort is actually right up here where this memorial is. It's been moved to down across the way.
While the impact of John Brown's raid was undeniable, considering the events leading up to the Civil War, Harpers Ferry was also holding a prominent role with the outcome of Civil War as well. The Gettysburg Campaign in summer of 1863 was the Confederacy's second attempt to bring the Civil War out of the South and into Maryland and Pennsylvania, for many of the same reasons as the first attempt: to weaken Union political support for war, to encourage international recognition for the South, and to give Virginian farmlands a chance to recover from the ravages of battle. The first Maryland campaign, though, in September 1862, saw Confederate General Stonewall Jackson move up the Shenandoah Valley, split off from the rest of Robert E. Lee's army, and take the Harpers Ferry garrison and riverways to secure the supply line back into Southern control. Lee's plans were aggressive, and since the geography around the Harpers Ferry Armory made it very difficult to defend, he assumed that the Union troops would retreat quickly and that Stonewall Jackson could quickly rejoin the Confederate armies in Maryland. While inexperienced, the troops stationed at Harpers Ferry defended the location for 3 days before finally surrendering. The Union surrender was the largest surrender of troops throughout the entire war, but the delay of Jackson's troops proved pivotal for the Confederate movements in Sharpsburg and Antietam Creek, and thus the overall outcome of the Maryland Campaign of 1862. Over time, Harpers Ferry has served prominent roles in civil rights, including the establishment of Storer College, educating former slaves and men and women of all races from 1867 to 1955. And these buildings also held meetings during the Niagara movement of the early 20th century, still standing and part of the national park footprint today. The importance of Harpers Ferry as a symbol for the American civil rights movement and for the freedoms of African Americans is deep-seated in the effects of John Brown's actions in this small scenic location on the Shenandoah and Potomac. It was a really, really hot day at Harpers Ferry, but we enjoyed our time throughout the heat, going back through time and exploring history and exploring the grounds, the beautiful scenery. It's definitely a destination worth a visit.